Fuck. Hey, what's going on, everyone? There's just so little enthusiasm nowadays around this football club. I just don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah. Well, it seems as though you've decided to just kind of revert to childhood because every time you speak, the word Ollie comes up on the screen, which
Yeah,
is your adorable, handsome young son of mine. Um, but yeah, there's really not much else to do in this situation because things are such shit. But to make them less shit, we have a returning guest of a number of times. One of our favorite people, Andy, has disappeared just as I was saying that. Jason, unmute yourself because with us today, Jason Davies of a Bergkamp Wonderland and of himself.
Thank you very much. How are you, pal?
Welcome back to the pod, Jason.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
Good to have you. You know, when things are bad and we just need a pickup, we need some positivity. We think of you first because you're just the man for the job.
You may be the only two people on this planet who think of positivity and me in the same sentence.
I was just taking the piss, but the bell's back. It was after a one show miss. The bell is back, and now Andy's back with his proper name. Tom Canton in the chat. Welcome to everyone that's in the chat. Tom's actually in here telling us how much he hates the podcast. He came for Andy. He came on Andy, and now Andy's gone. But Tom, Andy's back, so you can tell all your fans that they should come over here and watch.
yes, please do. A lot about football. We hate Ozil and Xhaka, and
here we'll just have a list. Here are our agenda.
Yeah, I've reverted to those people as Arsenal bitch boys, who just bitch and moan about everything. They're the Arsenal bitch boys.
I was prepared to bitch and moan about the lighting in Jace's room because I'm used to seeing just silhouettes of him to the point where we posted a picture of him in our pre-show announcement of our guest, which I spent 20 minutes on my iPhone, trying to change the contrast and the brightness so that we would see just his face and then bright white lights behind him. And that's but we've got him loud and clear here today. So
I try to do my impression of Jesus more often than not. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't work all the time. I'm not that holy.
Well, before we get into the football, Andy, another one of Stan Kroenke's U.S. teams has reached the second round of the playoffs. All of a sudden, Stan and Josh aren't just about the regular season anymore, man. They're about tournaments and trophies. They just haven't realized that the regular season
they're confused because there's no playoffs in Premier League football, and so they're very confused. But yes, Denver is loving life right now with having some playoff sport franchises, which doesn't happen all the time. So the Kroenkes are loved in Colorado right now, not by much, but they're loved.
Well, that'll change when we all go to Denver, and they're having some moderate success, which will just thrill everyone because they'll assume that should give them more money that they should spend on players. But anyway, but the trophy thing is big, and the Guardian reported that Arsenal were turned down. They tried to put the first team in next year's FA Vase and Check-a-Trade trophy competitions, and we're turned down from that. Because it's better to be in a competition that you can win than be in an actual competition with big boys. We know that. In other work news, speaking of winning trophies, a hearty congratulations to the Arsenal women who did something the men are unable to do the vast majority of the time, which is beat Brighton. But they also, in doing that, became the FA Women's Super League champions for the third time in the 8 years of the league in its current formation. It's outstanding. They were only a penalty kicks away from doing the double this year. So suck it, Man City. You get your cup, we get our Premier League. I know that the teams, I was looking at the standings to see how many games there were left, and there's one game left, but you look at the 11 teams in the Women's Super League, and I know that the names aren't going to match up with the traditional powers in men's football. You see your Bristol City, you see the Birmingham cities of the world, Reading, but how the fuck does Yeovil Town get a league, a team in the Women's Super League? Yeovil Town is like the team that's about to drop down into the Bananarama League in men's football. How is that club big enough to have
we bought the expert of women's football on, so Jason, why don't you lead us with...
Have you ever been to Yeovil?
No, but that's where Fifey's from. Fifey's from Yeovil.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of those things, if you go back...
He made it big coming from a small town then.
Yeah, just a bit. But if you go back, 20 years, Doncaster Bells, they were the premier women's football team. Bristol City, as it is now, I think, it used to be Bristol Academy. I know Wales's Jess Fishlock started out there. From Cardiff City to Bristol Academy. And, it's funny. It's like, only now have we got United putting money into women's football. Liverpool been doing it a few years, Chelsea, City have, but it's kind of taken its time for the big clubs to really back it the way the Arsenal and these other clubs have in recent years, But it's a twisted old tale, and it should be different. To be fair, it's good that there are some different names, because Yeovil Town fell out of the Football League. The men's team did this weekend. And so
it's official. I saw that they were dead last in League Two.
Yeah, no, they're officially down now. So it's
they're also falling out of the Women's Super League because they went into administration, and the 7 points in the standings that they did have out of 18 got contradicted by 10 penalty points, and they are literally sitting on -3 right now.
Oh, it's crap. Let's be honest. How the hell are Yeovil Town supposed to compete with Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal? That's
what surprised me so much.
It's a rigged system nowadays. I was listening to Arscast this week, and Tim Stillman was saying, they just basically write a check for £2.5 million to Arsenal ladies every season. Well, that's not self-sustaining, is it? The club is, but the ladies team isn't. And I agree you should help them, but it's difficult for small clubs.
Yeah,
it's not like the NFL or the young baseball where you've got a draft and everybody, it's all done through the umbrella of the organization. These guys, they oh my God, you've got a picture of Danny Sweetman behind you.
You just noticed that now. It's actually something that growing on my left shoulder that I'm trying to get rid of. But
Jesus, why?
Speaking of wankers, Jake, do you know who Arlo White is? Jace, does that name mean anything to you?
Yeah, I have seen him on a certain broadcast.
All right. Well. So you may know him a little bit, but he sure knows a lot about who Andy is. Andy,
he's
you want to tell us about your mate?
Every time Arsenal get a drubbing, it's just been a lot recently. He just asks me on Twitter if I'm okay, and
like 5 minutes after he goes off the air for whatever game he's doing for NBC over here. He's busy thinking about Andy.
Yeah, I screenshotted it to my dad, and he literally was like, "So what does he do? Turn off his microphone for Manchester United match and then just tweet you right away?" And I'm like, "Piers, that's what's happening here."
Boys, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yes, fuck yeah.
Yeah, Andy, the way to solve this problem is very easy. Tell him to go fuck himself.
That was his original strategy, but
yeah. And then Mike likes to yell at me when I yell at other people in journalistic endeavors in case we burn bridges. So I took the high road. I said, "Thank you for thinking of me, Arlo." He liked it.
Would we have him on the pod?
You know what? I actually would have him on the pod, Mike, because I want to know why he has an obsession with us.
It's because you slagged him off about his Tottenham love, and then as soon as he responded, you went fanboy and asked him to come on the podcast.
That was a long time ago.
I know that. Well, that was the genesis.
I didn't go fanboy. I told him that he should join us on the podcast. We could air our grievances man to man. To which he wrote back, "Not really a good way of recruiting."
Well, look.
And ever since then, I have not reached out to him. He keeps reaching out to me.
This is basically we're ripping a page out of how the WWE plans WrestleMania like a year in advance. They start planting the seeds for the rivalry, and by the time we have Arlo on the pod, it's going to be huge money for both he and I and you. than us.
I don't see
meant to say us.
I see 1%.
And does he know you're a married man?
Arlo or Mike?
Both.
Well, Mike doesn't care that I'm a married man, and I don't think Arlo does.
Yeah,
you might want to point that out to him.
I might want to point that out to him. I do. I
Sweet.
might. Now, Mike, I think you told me he is a Leicester City supporter, right?
Well, I think he's from Leicester, and yeah, I believe I found out when they started televising that he is Leicester City. But all those years Leicester City spent out of the top flight, I think he kind of took a liking to Tottenham, because that's where the beef started. His level of excitement when Tottenham scores is 25 times as much as when anybody else scores.
Oh yeah, it's like Lacazette could score a world, and he's like, Arsenal scored Lacazette, and then Harry Kane scores a penalty, and he has an orgasm on it. Right then, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, I'm trying to stave this off as long as possible, but let's get to your question, and then we have to talk about Wolves.
Jason, I want your quick opinion on Unai as a manager. It's hard not to doubt him based off the last few performances. Tell our listeners a little bit about your opinion, whether you think he's the right man for the job. Generically, we'll go into more detail about the specific games in a bit, but just kind of give us your overall opinion of where you see Unai at Arsenal at this stage with everything that's happened over the course of his tenure so far.
Well, first of all, I've got to admit, I thought he was the right man for the job when he's appointed. I think it would have been, it would have been a real poison chalice for Mikel Arteta to come in to replace Arsene Wenger. There were a lot of changes in the background of the club. Sanlehi coming in, Mislintat as well, forming that little triumvirate. You've also got Husfani, the contracts guy. So, I thought you needed a safe pair of hands, somebody with enough experience in sort of, of not minor clubs, but, Sevilla, big club, the big clubs in Spain. But he also had the pedigree coming from PSG. So, yeah, I thought it was the right appointment. Slow start. Then you pick up that, obviously the first two games being City and Chelsea. That's difficult. You're not hiding to nothing. Then we go on the winning streak. All credit to him. Did really well. But the one concern was the football didn't kind of seem to improve. The issues around Ramsey, then the issues around Mesut Ozil kind of set off alarm bells. Let alone the loss to Southampton away and what have you. The home wins to against Fulham and Cardiff, they really concerned me because the football was dire. We played awful football against them. We sort of scraped wins, and you'd seen the second half against Tottenham. And before we get go any further, I'm a massive Aaron Ramsey fanboy. Right up? I'm a massive I love Aaron Ramsey. He plays with ambition.
But you've said the best thing for him was to leave.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd leave. I've got to be honest with you. I don't. As a player, even with my Arsenal hat on, if I'd been treated the way he's been treated at this club, I'd be out the door. Even as a fan, I'd be out the door. Okay, I wouldn't give a monkeys about anything. The abuse from the fans, the abuse he's taken over the years, and the crap he's taken from Unai Emery this season, and Raul Sanlehi. I wouldn't leave the door, hit my arse on the way out. Okay, but you saw when he came on second half against Tottenham how getting ahead of the ball, getting ahead of play helps our game as a team. And he still wouldn't pick him. Now, okay, you can talk about the contract situation all you want, but for Unai Emery, it's all about Champions League qualification. It's the be-all and end-all. With recent results, since he's brought Ramsey and Ozil back in the team, you saw us actually starting to play attractive football, winning football. We started to look like a real team. Then you get the Ramsey injury, and it's kind of fallen apart. Now, that's not my opinion. Those are facts, okay? The football in the last few games has been utter dog shit. It's been appalling.
That's making dog shit look a little more attractive than it should.
Yeah, it really is. You know, the only reason we beat Watford is because they're a man sent off. So, you know, we're lucky. We're 3 points ahead of where we actually should have been. Okay. He can't find a way to link the midfield to the attack. At the moment, everything's in front of the defenders. You watch that Wolves game, okay? They don't need to work too hard. That's all they've got to be is solid and well organised. They don't need to work hard because there's nobody coming behind them. There are no runners coming through. You know, Xhaka, Torreira, Guendouzi, it doesn't matter who it is. They all like the ball in front of them. It will be. You know, he's trying to drive forward, but, you know, there's no runners coming off. So it's really difficult. But he knew this at the beginning of the season, and he's done nothing about it. You've had a transfer window where the magical Denis Suarez comes in and nothing else. Okay, there may be restrictions on that, but it's an area you need to address, and it hasn't been addressed. Not last summer, not in the winter. So going forward, I mean, look, if he wins the Europa Cup, he's a success. Okay? If he finishes outside of top 6, or outside of top 4, sorry, and doesn't win Europa Cup, I don't give a monkeys if he stays or goes.
Yep. No, you know? I don't think you're alone in that.
No, I don't either. And it's interesting that you bring up Arteta because I you know, Drew Thompson, a good friend of ours, brought up in a chat that he thought
you know him.
Yeah, but he brought up a good, interesting point though, Mike, and I think that anyone who's an Arsenal supporter and knows football will agree with this. We brought him in to work
Doubtful. Everyone doesn't agree on anything ever.
We brought him in to work with the team that we have right now and utilize this team to their maximum potential. We haven't done that in the last month and a half. We're not looking to bring in a manager that needs to spend 150, 200 million like a Pep Guardiola, who can say, yeah, we need, like Jace just said, hey, we need someone who can connect defense to mid to forwards. We can go out and spend 75 million on that center mid. We don't have that. So we bring in Unai right now, and that's part of the reason probably why Arteta didn't get it. But I look at it in hindsight and go, well, couldn't Arteta have done just as good, looking at the current circumstances and how we're playing right now?
Sorry to cut in, guys, but you also look at Ivan leaving, okay, and you know, Raul seems to be setting his stall out that he wants things his way, and that's the only way to do it. Well, this isn't Barcelona, mate. You can't bribe somebody or make somebody feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Or just brief against them to get your own way. And with Mislintat leaving as well, it seems that the plan in place that Unai came under has disintegrated.
True.
Do you know what I mean? So that's another thing to take into account. But totally agree. You know, you're coming in to make the best of what you've got. The best of what you've got, if the best of what you've got is on the bench, how's that helping you?
Right. It's not.
Well, this summer will show us quite a bit, and I think next season will show us more than this season what kind of a manager we have. You know, Emery.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much you could draw from this year. I mean, yes, we've seen that. You know, you take the same players mostly, the same environment, and plug in somebody else, and it looked like it was going to turn out better. May actually not turn out any differently than last year was, but. You know, I'm still team Unai for the time being, but this summer will tell us everything about where we're going. And where we have to go right now, as much as we don't want to, is talk a little bit about the game against Wolves. Before this game, I was as scared as if we were actually playing against actual fucking wolves with the teeth and the rabies and the claws and shit. But, I mean, I don't think there was anyone who felt confident that we would win this game. And I'm not proud of saying that, but it's just the way we are at this point. And you know, yeah, we kept a clean sheet in the second half, but the first half, not so much.
No.
So, I mean, we can't put lipstick on a pig. We got to talk about it. So, Andy, I mean, we're not about lambasting the team when it's not really necessary. But, you know, Andy, what are we going to say? Because I got a couple things to say at the end.
What frustrates me is when you go to a place like Wolves, Leicester, or they even come to you, you should be 1-0 up mentally, because they're coming to a big side, and Arsenal and, you know, even Manchester United are falling into this category where that's not the case. You're equals when the first ball's kicked, and Wolves were licking their lips at playing us. And we knew it was going to be a tough fixture, but 3-0 down at halftime, Mike, is bad. Really, really bad. And how is a team like Arsenal down 3-0 at half to a team like Wolves? Granted, they're a good team, don't get me wrong. But mentally, we walk out on the pitch with the crest on the front. Our players' chest should be big. We walk out like wounded animals right now, and that's the reason why. I mean, nothing went well for us. And you can speak about certain players playing well, but 90% of the team have been absolute, as Jason said, dog shit. It has been atrocious. And I'm sorry, but if it wasn't for Leno, we're looking at 2 cricket scores.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he's been at fault in both games. But he's also kept the games a respectable
the Wolves game was not his shining moment, but I mean, just you can't.
I'll go on defense for that, just for real quick, right? When you have a defense in front of you as a keeper, and you're not seeing them play well, you're not seeing them mark, you're not hearing anything out of them. As a keeper, you think, I need to step up here. He comes off the line. It was idiotic, but he thought, I probably have a better chance to get to that because no fucking asshole on the pitch is going to do it. And he got beat to the ball by a Wolves player. It happens. But if he had a fucking defender in front of him that had a big enough pair of balls and wanted to fucking head the ball away, he wouldn't have had to come off of his line. So a lot led up to that moment. And that's what frustrates me with the Koscielny having that fucking armband, or whoever was playing in that game with the armband. You need to rip new assholes into people. I'm getting fucking sick and tired of our team being the team when we score, they turn around, they look at the referee. It's the first person they all look at. Look at your fucking teammate next to you and rip them a new fucking asshole for not being the one. And if I were Leno, I would be doing that. I know he's young. I know he's new to the team. His English probably isn't great. But I would be saying whatever the fucking Deutschland, Germany, what the fuck language, I would just be screaming.
German. It's called German.
Because it frustrates the shit out of me that we don't have a fucking leader on this team. And it frustrates me even more that we have leaders who are on the bench and they're not being utilized. It pisses me off.
I thought that we had a lot more steel and a lot more of that. And I think we gave credit to the team for having that earlier this year. And it's just, it's gone away.
It's because they're too friendly with each other.
I disagree with that totally. Okay, and I'll tell you why. There's a couple of people saying it in the box here now. Syed. I do apologize for butchered your name, mate. From what I've heard, many people appreciate that Emery's doing a good job. Maybe our players aren't good enough or whatever. There's a couple of comments of it. If you look at our Wolves game, we were controlling possession early doors. Okay, but it's the same thing constantly. Don't do that to me, you bitch.
I'm not doing it to you. I'm doing it for you.
We're pushing up. We got the 2 in the middle, okay? The guys out wide trying to drive up. But Wolves know nobody's coming in behind you. So there's nobody being taken out of that defensive setup, okay? There's no runners dragging a midfielder here, dragging a defender over there, creating space, because you've got no runners going through. Right? That's all they've got to do. Keep your line. Right? Hold on tight. They'll get frustrated. They're going to pass around. We're going to pounce in the first loose ball. Now, because the midfield's pushed up and the defenders are pushed up, right? As soon as they get that ball, they get the pacey guys going forward. So they turn us so quickly, we can't cope with it. We haven't got gas in defence. Okay, there's no pace in our defenders. There's no real pace in our midfielders. Okay. So they know, they put the quick guys. As soon as you turn the ball over, you head down your channels. We're gonna launch it down, and they turn. They can't get back in time. Okay, for me, the Leicester game, the Palace game, and to a lesser extent because we didn't have possession against Leicester. Sorry, but the Wolves game and the Palace game, we've lost faith in the tactics that we're playing. Okay, they're going through the motions. Nobody, Lacazette needs a runner coming off him. We're best when we're playing 1-2 football, pass, move, just get him behind. But you've got nothing coming from midfield. Okay, when Mesut Ozil is hiding out on the wings or coming too deep to get the ball, that's not where he's effective. He's effective patrolling in between the lines again with runners coming off him. Now, unless you've got those people who are prepared to do that job or capable of doing that job, it's the same old stuff. Watch the Wolves game again. They're not even breaking a sweat defending against us.
I'd rather not, please.
And as soon as you turn the ball over, They know, right, we got a couple of guys with gas, get down the channels, bingo. You've turned us, we're in deep stuck. We can't get out of it. We've got nobody with pace, because he's been through hell with that injury. But, forget it, all that possession, how many attempts on target do we get? We get nothing for
None.
all.
None in the first half.
For the possession, okay? We only scored from a corner. Other than that, we didn't really threaten the goal.
Well, and when you play like that, it's a team like Wolves, Leicester watch that and they go, here's exactly how we're going to set up for Arsenal. So we're already, again, on the back foot because they've seen how effective that is for Wolves.
It's one of those things, it's like Saeed puts in there again, Unai has my vote. He's done just enough to impress me with the weak squad injuries and the Mustafi. Look at the stats the Mustafi puts up against things. I know he's had a terrible season. He's bunny in the headlights. He's lost his confidence. It's best for him to leave the club so both parties can move on. No doubt about that. But, you can't blame all this on one player.
No.
Because, you look at the weekend's game. Socrates is a bag of shit.
Yeah.
Talk about over-egging a bang average defender. Koscielny and Socrates with the ball, with one long ball, get beaten. And you think that's okay? Do you know what I mean? Even when Mustafi doesn't play, he gets grief.
Well, I was about to say,
bigger issues on Mustafi.
Exactly. We conceded the same amount of goals in both matches. It's not
every time someone thinks somebody's responsible for something, or whether it's positive or negative, and then they go missing in the next game. I mean, the narrative is that's why the agendas become obvious, because it doesn't really matter sometimes what we do.
Yeah. Because
it's a team mentality. It's a cloud over the team. And that is something I look at to Unai for. Speaking of which, my rant, as we're kind of going one by one, is about this mentality issue and the microcosm of this team. And I've ranted about it on Twitter. The microcosm of this team, to me, was Wolves' first goal. 28 minutes in, Nacho fouls a Wolves player about 24 yards from the goal. Up walks Ruben Neves, who I didn't realize this, but apparently he's better at free kicks than Roberto Carlos, Coutinho, Eriksen, Messi, and Ronaldo combined. He sizes up our 5.5-person wall. We have 5 players and Lucas Torreira in the wall, who's about 4'7". And I would say that Neves got it perfectly and curled the ball beautifully over the wall into the corner, but over the wall would be an exaggeration, because when the ball hits the wall, it's about exactly 6.5 to 7 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Andy, Jace, do you know who in the wall was about 6'1" and could probably jump a foot in the air?
Mike, most of those players they're professional athletes, but at the end of the day, when your face is as pretty as Xhaka's, you don't want to take it in the face.
Well, that's the problem, and you're qualified to talk about taking it in the face. But when Granit Xhaka jumps up, he jumped about a foot in the air and then curls his head down into the side. So you jump up a foot, making yourself 7 feet tall, but having the foot below you be exposed to somebody who, sometimes those kicks go under you. And then he negates the foot he's jumping by bending his head down while the ball literally sails inches above his bent down head. And Mainsley and Lacazette, my loves, look, I love you too, but pathetically turning around, protecting your pretty faces before the ball hits the wall. So 3 out of the 5 players in the wall put their personal safety and their looks ahead of putting every inch of their body on the line to reduce the likelihood of us conceding. And to me, that's the biggest problem with the club right now. I mean, his players the players are not willing to figuratively give themselves up on the pitch. They're not even willing to break a fucking nail. And, I noticed it. And then Gary Birtles, who apparently used to play for a few first division teams in England, he does commentary on you're the 8th most important game in the week when Gary Birtles is doing the commentary. But he went absolutely ape shit over the players turning their backs and ducking, and he was absolutely right on that. And anyone that doesn't think that there's enough time in that split second to adapt and to that basically it wouldn't have mattered because the ball's traveling so fast and from only 10 meters away. Take a look at some video that our friend Tom Rosenhammer found from this weekend from a Stuttgart game of Mario Gomez in the wall. It's on at RVA Gooner. I retweeted it from our account. Dude faces the kick, watches the kick, and along with the rest of his team has the time to recognize that it's going about neck high, and he actually bends down, not to get away from the ball, but to head it away because he's watching it and it's on its way. So, Andy, I know Mario Gomez's face compares to Granit Xhaka's face the way that my face compares to Granit Xhaka's face. But, I mean, I don't think I'm overreacting about this. This is a microcosm of our team, not just poor.
It's a microcosm of football, though, Mike, because I don't think that you necessarily can pinpoint it just to Arsenal. Football players nowadays are made out of glass and they're fucking pussies, all of them.
Well, but then you see,
you see it every now and again. But I tell you what,
I bet you're not going to see that from Burnley. I bet you're not going to see that from
because that's
coaching.
The problem is Granit Xhaka doesn't have to worry, and I've been a fan of his, and I still am. But Granit Xhaka doesn't have to worry about where the money is going to come from next season. The guys at Burnley do, because they're not guaranteed to be playing Premier League football.
They're getting paid a lot of money.
They are getting paid a lot of money, but what I mean by that is they're not guaranteed to be in the league next season. A lot of those players are fringe, so maybe they could move up, maybe they could move down. So I feel like there's just a little bit more hard man mentality. I can guarantee you that Tony Adams would have stood there like a fucking statue and taken that in the face.
Yeah.
Not just because of his love of football, because he wants the world to know a fucking hard man.
This is the part of the podcast where we have to apologize to another member of the Hernandez family, by the way, for our content. But sorry about that, Mrs. Hernandez.
I'm not getting involved.
Well, I'm not meaning to just pick on Granit.
Then I'm sorry.
What?
If what?
Already. Mike Stalter.
Oh, is Mike Stalter in the car?
No, it's his wife this time. Who I don't think she liked the reference to.
Most times when husband and wives are listening to this podcast, Mike, they're
Well, the second child came from the podcast.
That's exactly. So I'm just saying, like maybe we need to start some Barry White and.
She'll be angry at us, but then it'll lead to something after the podcast is over.
But that's
kid number 3.
Point, like that, Mike. To go back to your point of that being the manager, where's the leadership? Where's the person on the pitch, or where's the and maybe this happens behind closed doors and we don't know, but who is up the other person's bum hole? Let's keep it PG. About that why isn't Xhaka getting? It's just. That's what bothers me about.
He was like literally swiveling his head, and he might have been like captaining that wall and sending directions out to people because he barely turned his head forward in time for the kick.
But there's a problem. No one captains the wall except for the keeper. I'm sorry, but if you're the keeper, you're captaining the wall, and then all their job is to do is to jump and block the fucking ball. No one should be talking to anyone. It should be, hey, get close and tight to me. That should basically be it.
Yeah.
So there's just it's just. It didn't lose us the game, but it didn't help us start the game off well. And as Jason said, the whole thing was just a fucking dog shit match. I mean, it was absolutely atrocious. It was so atrocious.
And it wasn't just Granit Xhaka. I mean, who else had a bad day? Everyone else on the fucking team.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't mean to single him out, but that was the moment. There were 2 moments. One was that one, and the other was after the game. And this is the other thing. I'm getting my rants out of the way, and then I'm going to go back to being a little bit more positive and big picture. But a thing that bugs me, and we've talked about this before, especially on away days, is when like all but 2 or 3 of the players, 3 or 4 of the players go right down the tunnel after the match, after a performance like that, and don't have the decency to walk over the traveling supporters. And I'm not one of them 99.9% of the time, but I've been there, and it's diabolical. The people who travel all over the country and the continent following and supporting the club. I mean, you could make a statement of appreciation by, or of apology, of energy, of giving your shirt to somebody, of just a high five. I've seen people, managers go over and just kind of give body language that they understand that wasn't good enough, and it's right after the game instead of in the press, and just show that you're not taking that support for granted, and not granted Xhaka, but for.
But Mike, over the past few years, okay, if you look at the experiences of these players, Maitland-Niles, it will be verbally abused on Twitter. They get abused on Twitter on a regular basis. You look at the Mustafi business recently, it's there we were calling Liverpool scum for what they did to Karius. What we did to what some of our fans did to Mustafi's no better. No better at all.
That's true, but their responsibility is to differentiate Twitter from the fans that are at that game.
Yeah, but bear with me a second. You've had a fucking plane flown over a stadium. I know. Wanting the manager out. You've had banners everywhere, okay? After a while, I don't care who you are, you're a human being. It gets to a point where you think, shit, is this worth it? Now, I agree with you. They should always go over and thank the supporters no matter what, whether they're home or away. I think they should, okay? But after a while, if you've been booed, if you've been heckled, if you've been abused, after a while, you know what? It is a job for these guys. It is a job for these guys.
And part of that job should be to show appreciation to the people that got on a train, spent their hard-earned money, and went out to see you, or flew over to Athens or Ukraine or Baku to watch you. And you put in a shit performance for whatever the reason is, or you put in a great performance. But part of that job should be trying to filter out all the noise. And it's unfortunate, it's abusive, it's not okay. But I don't buy. And I don't think this is exactly what you're saying, but I don't buy that, that they should become so jaded by the way social media treats them, and occasionally the game day crowd treats them, and to the point where they disconnect and show no appreciation to the supporters. I think that's absolute horseshit. And that, I blame Emery, Caicedo, Bold, Wenger before him, everybody. That has to be non-optional. It shouldn't be a bonus for away supporters to get interaction with a couple of their heroes.
It's fair comment. Trying to play devil's advocate in it because I can see the flip side. Also there's the sense of embarrassment after a performance like that, where you just think, oh shit, I just want to hide.
That's when you have to not hide and show that that you have
people
pride.
People react differently, and it's one of those things. It is annoying, but. We remember that. We remember those images of, I can't remember where we were. I think it was maybe Dortmund, where Mez's halfway down the tunnel and Permits sack is You go back and you clap those fans.
We need somebody doing that, and it shouldn't come down to player self leadership. It should come down to Unai Emery saying, when the game ends, you go over to our away stands and you walk halfway over, maybe. Whatever you want to do, you go over and do that before you're allowed to go back in the locker room. They're employees of the club to the point where you can tell them to do that or they'll be fined. And I just don't think that I don't like treating them like children and telling them what they have to do. But if they're not going to show respect to the people who do support them the most, and I've been in away crowds, and other than one of them, which was a toxic situation in Crystal Palace, and didn't even start the game that way. They are among the most supportive and just diehard. They'll clap you even after a poor game, but they're not going to clap you if it looks like you don't give a shit about it. When you walk back in the locker room out of embarrassment or shame or frustration about social media, you're basically sending out the message that you don't care about it. And that is just non-starter for me. If you don't go over and clap your away support 2 games in a row, my new crusade, you go in the bin. I don't care who the fuck you are. And that's all I have to say about that. So let's talk about something brighter. The Leicester City game.
Oh, Jesus.
There are 3 things I hate worse than anything else. The first is diarrhea. The second is not being able to have sex with Brie Larson. And the third is losing games to Brendan Rodgers. there is
his little hands.
Oh, there is nothing I hate more. I was so happy when he went to Celtic or Celtic or whatever you want to call it. But now that he's back and he's with a team that we should still be able to beat, I just know we're never going to do it again because that guy's just a little snake and squirmy. Ugh.
Jason, do you feel like the lineup we put out for Leicester was the strongest one on the day, or do you feel like there could have been some tweaks? Because there's been a lot of conversation about his strategy, formation, tactical decision. What do you think of the lineup for Leicester?
I think it's a strong lineup. I think it was top heavy. They've got gas in Vardy. They got real gas in their team. A lot of pace up top. They got some good playmakers. Then they're not a bad side. They've had a bit of a roller coaster of managers, but you're playing Henrik Mkhitaryan, who does next to nothing. I'm sorry, I mean, if Ozil gets
the little burst of quality when he came back from his injury, but he's back.
Yeah, but it was 1 or 2 games. It was nothing. I'm not being funny. If Mesut gets kind of blackballed from the team, what the hell is Mkhitaryan doing? I've tried to defend Mkhitaryan over the season, but I can't anymore. You got it looked like it was a kind of 4-4-2, but those wingers are pushing up high, okay, because he's not getting width from wing backs anymore. So the wingers are pushing up high. You've got Torreira and Xhaka getting outnumbered. The commentator, I think Andy Townsend's commentated, and he spotted straight away. You could see the extra man. And we did nothing to nullify that. Nobody tucked in, nobody tried to help out. If Andy Townsend can see it, I'm sure Unai Emery can see it. You could have switched to a 3 to solidify that midfield, but no, he didn't. The sending off was, let's be honest, James Maddison's a fucking cheat. But, Torreira would have gone over in exactly the same way, so we can't say too much. Unai got tactically outdone by Brendan Rodgers. And, we can take the piss out of Brendan Rodgers all we want. He is a decent manager. No matter what anybody says, he's a decent manager. But, he just, you can't be that top heavy against a team who've got pace going the other way. You just fucking can't. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the signs of danger came early, and they came often. And as I said before, Leno made some spectacular saves.
He was back on in this one, that's for sure.
Yeah, he basically was. But they get a corner, and how on a corner kick, nobody is challenging for a 50-50 header in the box, Jason, is beyond me. I don't understand how it didn't even look like Socrates left the ground. And as a center back, that's atrocious defending. You should just be lynched.
Yeah, and we didn't give up a goal on that one, and then the floodgates open.
I mean, it's just but that's the theme of the game, though, Mike. That's what I was trying to get to. That's the theme of the game is when you're doing things, the basic stuff like that, like the Wolves match, right? The first goal that goes in is because we're being lazy on the wall. We're setting the tone of the game. We're allowing Leicester to look at our back line and go, we can take you. You're allowing the stadium and the supporters for Leicester to back their team when you're troubling the keeper as much as they were. And if you at least get stuck in, right? Before Jason said earlier, players look at our back line and they go, we can beat you with speed, right? Back in the day, maybe you can't do it as much in modern football because the referees are quick to stop it. But I remember Ian Wright once said, like, I didn't want to upset a defender because I would get a knee in my ass or in my back. If you're a Koscielny or Socrates and you're playing a Vardy, give him a fucking kick to start the match. Let him know, hey, you come close to me, you're gonna get.
Is that the Troy Deeney approach? I mean, you got to be careful with that.
No. You do it in the laws of the game, but you just let them know, here I am. So if Socrates in the middle of you look at like a Ramos, right? Everyone thinks he's this dirty bastard. Players respect him a little bit more because of that. When you're in that corner kicks setup and there's the tuggling and the tussing, whatever, you just let them know you're there, and we're not doing that. And so to allow someone to just get a free header and you're peppering the keeper, at the end of the day, one of those is going to go in, and we're just not setting the theme. We're not starting these games strong, and we're just, everything is lacking. And again, is it the management? Is it there no leadership on the team? Are the players giving up at this point? there's still a lot for us to play for. That's the crazy thing about this, Mike, is we're not coming out looking like a team who can make Champions League. We're coming out looking like a team who says we're 20 points off Champions League spot. We're just ready to go on holiday. And that's what makes me nervous, is that we can't fucking get up for these important matches.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you look at it, we've dropped 12 points in 5 games. Okay? If we won 2 of those games, we'd be in third right now, a couple of points clear of the scum. Pardon me, sorry. This is the business end of the season. This is where, if you want to be a top player at a top club, you need to be turning up. But I don't think it's anything to do with effort. You look at the amount of possession we had in Palace against Wolves, etc. We had 72.5% possession. We couldn't create anything with it. Against Leicester, the wheels came off. We had 30% possession or what have you. We didn't look like peppering their goal. We didn't look like threatening their goal. Sooner or later, the manager has to take responsibility for poor performances. In exactly the same way he gets credit for the 22-game unbeaten streak. Now, we've got 4 games for sure left. Unai Emery's season relies on either top 4 or winning the Europa League. If he gets in the Champions League, he's a success. It's as simple as that. It's a success. But looking at this season and the way it's gone and his use of players and the way, the Ozil situation, everybody said, he's getting the best out of him. I don't see he has. I genuinely don't see he has. Yet you're letting Mkhitaryan get away with murder. And it's not just my fear for the end of the season. It's my fear for next season, because I can really see the wheels coming off next season. And you can quote me on this. Next season, I can see being an utter car crash for us.
I think that, no, Jason, let me ask you this. Is it an utter car crash if he doesn't get the opportunity to invest in the club and the team? Or are you saying that if this team is the same as next season? Because I agree with you there, but I want to give him at least a summer to try and get some of the players in that he believes. Because that 22 unbeaten run came when we had a pretty healthy squad. There was a lot of rotation. I feel like right now we don't have the ability to take a poor, out-of-form Mustafi and throw him on the bench. And again, I'm not saying it's one player's fault, but we just don't have that. We don't have that depth. I mean, look at fucking Wolves. We had to bring on Nketiah to try and help us nab a goal. That's not going to happen. He's not good enough.
Yeah, but if you look at the background to this, he's brought in as a coach, not a manager. Okay? When he was initially brought in, there's Ivan there. I know Ivan's gone now, have you? But Ivan's there. You've got Sven. You've got Raul, the great triumvirate who are going to take us forward. They're going to identify the players. They're going to bring them in. Husfani's going to do the contracts negotiations. Since suddenly he's taken over, I don't know exactly what is going on. To date, we only have Denis Suarez as an example of what's happening. The talk of bringing ever fucking Banega into the team, if that's the level we're looking at now, fucking forget it. Shut up shop. Don't worry about it. You're letting Aaron Ramsey go for nothing. What are you replacing him with? Because, there's the transfer fee gone. There's your player of last season gone. There's, your top scorer from midfield gone, blah, 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 blah. All those things. And you're going to bring in ever fucking Banega?
Well, this was my fear of and which I expressed in the season leading up to when we first missed the, I guess that was our first season when we dropped out of the top 4, which is, when you drop out of the top 4, ownership and management either does everything possible to get you back in the top 4 as soon as possible, or you just drop the ledger down. It's a simple accounting for a self-sustaining club. When the revenue hits, you just drop the outlays. You drop the expenses.
Yeah,
and 3 years in a row now, if that's what ends up happening, we have 2 shots at the apple or whatever, 2 bites at the apple. But we pretty much thrown the apple away on one of them. And, if we don't get that back, now it really does start to impact the bottom line to the point where even though there's money to spend, I don't know that they will. There is plenty of money to spend this summer. Not to open that can of worms again, but there is a ton of money both in their hands and in the rules that they are allowed to spend. And I am getting more and more worried that they won't, even though it's there.
Yeah, but the problem you got is, okay, even though there's money to spend, say for argument's sake, it's £200 million.
We get like 8 Ever Benegas.
Yeah, but this is the thing. If you're bringing, say, for argument's sake, it's £200 million they've got to spend, okay? How many holes have we got in this squad that people identify? If you go for everybody's sort of opinion, okay, we need to change the whole squad. You know, you definitely need to look at left back. You need a backup right back. You need another centre back, though. I'd give Chambers a chance. I'd pair him with Holding and give him a go personally.
Can't do worse.
Well,
no.
I laugh at that like of the Wolves, but figuratively speaking. But I mean, could you do any worse than we already have?
Exactly. You need to get in a Ramsey replacement, and I think another midfielder, another good quality midfielder. You know, El Nene's obviously on his way out, and the poor bugger's been on a hide into nothing. He's had no game time, and yet people expect him to perform to a certain level. It ain't going to work. Then you need a wide man. Okay. But every whether you're in Europe, whether you're in the Premier League, whether you're in the Championship, you look at Arsenal coming at your door, and you had 20 million quid onto the asking price, and hope for the best. That money soon runs out. We're now talking monopoly money for players. So for all this thing, we're saving on the wage bill, etc., etc. Yeah, we are great. Okay, we're going to be able to pay players' wages, but we don't set market value. That's all it takes is one inquiry on the player we're after from Chelsea or Man City, and cha-ching, the wage demands go up, the asking price goes up, and all of a sudden, where are we at? And all the plans that were laid last summer with Mislintat, etc., are out the window. Now, Raul's looking at his contacts book of, I'll be able to sort this out. We don't have Barcelona tax accountants. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We made your accounts in where is it nowadays? Maine or whatever. I don't know where the hell it'd be do it, but we have to hold account. They have to give certain accounts to the Premier League, and we can't cheat the rules.
Delaware.
So it's Delaware. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not strong on the US states. Sorry, Pam.
I don't live far from Delaware, so I'll go there and fuck some shit up.
Apologies for that. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
But
my door's always open for you. By the way, when the team comes this summer, you got a place to stay.
If I come over, I won't leave. That's the problem.
Yeah, I have to talk to my wife about that one.
I will have a chat with your wife, actually.
Yeah, because I'm punching.
Hey!
Right now, I'll cut my thought short about the players that what we need to do this summer. But I wouldn't be absolutely devastated to see the bulk of our movement come from skimming some players off of these bottom 14 teams in the Premier League, if you will. I mean the players from Burnley or Leicester or whatever that know the Premier League, they are the ones who are the opposite of what I'm talking about with the wall jumping. And because right now the sum of our parts is less. I mean, the team's a sum of our. What am I trying to say? We are less than the sum of our parts right now. And teams like Leicester and teams like Wolves, Leicester when they won the title, I mean, and Wolves this year, I mean, they're much, much greater than the sum of their individual parts. And we need to pick up some of those parts to mix with our flair players. And to me, it's that simple. But we got a bunch of really, really good user questions this week, so we want to make sure we get to them. Starting from Nate on Twitter, and maybe we haven't really answered this. Is there anything tactically or personnel-wise, in your opinion, that Emery could have done to better prepare his team for playing away from home this season? And from there, his question kind of sparked a debate on Twitter about whether Emery tinkers too much, like the opposite spectrum of how Wenger was so predictable with his game plan from one week to the next. Is Emery like Tinkerman 2, Electric Boogaloo from Ranieri, or does he see a dip in form in the team and just try to fix it by tinkering, or or am I overthinking it? And I'll ask you guys because I have zero tactical nous, as you know.
I think, Mike, that again, we live in a world where last season it became a frustration that Arsene did the same thing every match over and over again, and everyone was saying we need a tactical person. Now we bring in that person, and now he's doing too much.
We went crazy with these with his halftime, like in a good way, with his halftime subs, his earlier than 70th minute subs, and different formations, and now people
change. But you need someone who's going to tinker. You need someone who's going to look at each opponent, have on the horizon, and know what the lineup is. The problem I have is we went into certain matches with a starting 11 where we played terrible. And then we go and we do that starting 11 again, and we play terrible. And it's like, where's the learning curve here? And I get that you're coming from leagues where you can go to smaller clubs and just put out a starting 11 and you're going to win 2 or 3-0. You don't have that in the Premier League. My answer to that is the problem is the depth. And it's the same problem that we've had the last 5 years. We just don't have depth in squad to be able to say we can plug a player in and have them make an impact right away. Having Holding and Bellerin fall from the season is huge because we have been absolutely atrocious since they've been gone. But I think I put it on Twitter a while ago, and agree or disagree, we bring on Eddie Nketiah at the end of that Wolves match.
I think wasn't it Leicester that we brought him on?
No, Wolves. Well, he may have came on at Leicester, but Pep turns and looks at his bench, and granted, he's got all the money in the world, but he has Gabriel Jesus, Leroy Sané
comes on.
You've got players that will immediately walk onto the pitch, and credit to Nketiah, he's a young kid, but he's the best we have, and that's where we need to improve our depth. And you want to improve it with players who can push to get on the squad. It sucks Danny Welbeck is hurt because he's the type of player that when he comes on, he tries his best, and he'll try and do something. You've seen it a lot in the Iwobi. We need 3 or 4 more players who, when they come on, they can make an impact, but they also need to be pushing every week the starting 11 players, those good players, because we just don't have it. And I think that's where our problem is. We just don't have it. And Jason knows I fucking love Aaron Ramsey I'm so upset he's leaving, but who the fuck are we going to replace Aaron Ramsey with? Because as Jason said, we have to pay the fee. We're going to probably pay him close to what he would have been making had he stayed. So why not just have looked at that transfer fee and said, okay, we're going to pay you a little bit more, because he's the player that can turn on, like he can walk onto the pitch and turn the game instantly every time. It's not like Ozil where it's maybe 1 out of 10 times. Ramsey, it's 8 out of 10. And that's my problem, is we need more players like that.
Yeah, and I guess is the follow up on that question, and I'll throw it to you, Jace. And
on that point, because I got a slightly different view on that.
Okay.
It's not so much so when you look at tinkering with a team, that okay, fine, you can tinker with a team. Okay, you should be able to change setups, etc., and have you. But the big thing at the moment I see is that he didn't get Plan A right in the first place. He didn't solidify his Plan A. You're not building on solid foundations because he kept on chopping and changing too often, too quickly. And when players, haven't got a kind of fallback position to go to, don't moan at them for not being able to play a new setup all the time.
That was exactly how I was going to reshape the question to you, Jace, are the players unable to really get any level of consistency, and can that over tinkering be responsible for their shit the last couple of games?
Exactly, and that's the thing. Whereas Andy makes a really good point about depth. Okay, you do need depth. Liverpool have used the least amount of players this season because the quality is there. Okay, the quality of the player is there. Now, obviously, we have defensive issues. But if we're looking at kind of Danny Welbeck, who's been a fringe player with us, or a squad player for a long time, I do agree he's a loss. Okay, I do, because I like what he offers us when he comes on the pitch. He's big, quick, he's physical presence. He defends his full back or his wing back, whatever it is, and he's 110% effort guy. Rob Holding, you know, he's what is he, 20? We're missing a 20-year-old centre-half. What have we done? You know, but the thing is, you know, we've let in 49 league goals this season. Okay? That's a structural issue you've got. And it all comes from, you know, not linking your attack well enough and having no gas at the back. So when you're turning that ball over, all of a sudden, you're right for the picking on the break. So, you know, there's a part of it which is tactical. Yes, the quality's there. I absolutely agree with Andy on that. You know, quality and depth. You know, you need these young up-and-coming kids with a bit of ambition to challenge good quality first-team players. You know, because if you raise the base, the standard of your base player, then the squad will get better, if you know what I mean. You know, gone are the days of, no offence to Chuba Bergkamp, but, you know, to ever think he was going to be an Arsenal centre-forward is nuts.
Yeah,
you know, but you have to
and he was on the fringes way too much.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you have to get six right. The team have to have solid foundations with which to build on. You get plan A right, then you open up to plan B. Then once plan B is right, you have a plan C. You know, and for as much as people slag off the squad we've got a lot of talented players.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know if we lost connection.
You know, don't tell.
No, we do, and that's, you know, that's where you know, as we mentioned before, you add 3, maybe 4 players into this squad, and you keep the bulk. And I think I had a question on there, Mike, that you may have erased, but, you know, I wanted to know, like, hey, if we were to bring back 3 players who you feel are essential to the Arsenal season next year, you know, you'd almost build your squad around them. But to change that, I think the point we're making is you need to add 3 or 4 players that can come in and they're Premier League ready tomorrow. I don't want to keep hearing.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't want to keep hearing, well, if you bring someone in, then Alex Iwobi doesn't get his chance. No. If Iwobi is a good enough footballer, if you bring in, let's say, a Leroy Sané, he should be pushing Iwobi to be better. That makes Arsenal better. Then we have a problem of selection come that's not our problem. That is now Unai Emery's problem, and it's a good problem to have. Oh, you started Leroy Sané and he's not playing well in that match? Well, we'll throw in Iwobi. And then Iwobi steps onto the line and goes, this is my 30 minutes where I'm going to prove to everyone on the coaching staff they were wrong to not pick me. So next week, they're going to pick me. And then Leroy Sané that week in training goes, well, hold on a second. Now I need to do better. So we're all pushing each other. We don't have to be friends. We want
not to mention we got 60 games a year.
Exactly. Now everyone said exactly that, and then everyone says, well, Gabriel Jesus should be starting. Should he? Because he's got fucking Aguero. He needs to better. And at the end of the day, Aguero is a fucking Man City legend, and he's one of the best strikers in the world. So you need to be like, we've got this problem with Lacazette and Aubameyang, and I put it into a group chat. Why aren't those two doing better? Where in our management are we failing those 2 players? Is it the system? Is it the tactics? Because when you spend 100 million on 2 players, and I get Aubameyang's up there in the top goal scorers, we should be banging in way more goals.
That's a tactical issue, isn't it? You know,
it's totally a tactical issue.
If you look back at the Fulham and Cardiff City games at home, okay, we got away with it both times. And it's a similar setup to when we went away to Leicester with, okay, and Wolves, you know what I mean? Okay, where it's the top heaviness of the team, okay. Lacazette performs better when he's got runners coming off him, so that he can interact. There's a bit of interplay. His touch has been heavy recently. I don't think he's been the best of form. We don't play to Aubameyang's strengths at all, you know. And Josh pointed this out on the radio show the other day we do. You know, if you look at Aubameyang, does look like he's lost a bit of gas. Whether the sinus problems have affected him, I don't know. But we've never really played to his strengths. You know, he comes in off he always looks better coming in off the left, right? But when you look at the games where, you know, we've got, you know, and no disrespect to any of these guys, because, you know, I think Guendouzi and Torreira are going to become really good footballers. And I you know, for as much as Xhaka likes a mistake, I got a lot of time for Xhaka. But when those are the guys coming up from the middle to back up your attacking force, nobody's getting ahead of the ball. Nobody's forcing defenders to make decisions or to have to think. It is so plain to see that, you watch that Wolves game and these guys are just stood there thinking, crack on, lads, we can do this all day long.
Mm.
It's not going to change. And for as much as he went, against Leicester, I thought he should have brought on. I thought Iwobi was more effective than Mkhitaryan. I thought you should have brought on Guendouzi earlier to shore up the midfield. Yes, he had to make a decision in the defense, but
seems everybody's running out of steam at this stage, and it shouldn't be happening because this is the business end of the season, as you mentioned.
But one name we keep mentioning is, and I think he's going to be a great player, but I've been saying it since the start of the season. Guendouzi's not going to help us win a Premier League title right now. He's not helping us attain top 4 football right now. We needed to bring, and granted, he got thrown into this to the team because of injury and World Cup hangover. I get that. But it's not fair to that kid to be thrown into a match. We need a player who can come on at 2-1 down and say, I've been in big matches where we've turned it around. We need a player who comes in at 1-0 up who says, I know how to hold down the midfield. Torreira has been a fucking godsend. Without him, God knows where we would be. We need 1 or 2 more of him. And we've stretched him too thin. I mean, look how poor he's been recently because we've probably rushed him back from that injury. And it's just we need players who
he's coming from the league as well, isn't he? There's the step up in physicality, etc.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely there is. And he's not a big guy. And it's just, when you're a Wolves or a Leicester or a Watford, you look at part of your and we talked about this a while ago, Mike, part of your tactics in a match, and you see in other sports, specifically hockey, who we're both huge fans of, especially when you get to the end of the season, you get in the playoffs, look at the best players on the other team and you go, hey, we got to go bruise these guys. We got to go let them know we're not going to let them run over us. So when you, like Troy Deeney's mentality, he looked at, and other teams are going to look at, who kind of hunker down your midfield, who are going to be causing your strikers problems. They look at Torreira and they go, let's go give him a couple bruises. You take him out of his element, out of his game. And that's tactical for a lot of the smaller teams.
Playoff hockey is a different sport than regular season hockey because it becomes about who knows how to win certain games, and it becomes about messages and mentality.
Absolutely. It's how many hits you have. It's how heavy
you play.
Exactly, how heavy you play. And so if you are Wolves and you're coming and you're looking at Arsenal and you're looking at a wounded animal, you're like, hey, let's go be a little bit heavy to start this match with some of the players. Doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to be nasty, but let's be heavy. Let's let them know we're here. And then as Jason said, you fucking add that speed, that channel running, and that work, and you look at that, it all starts culminating in us getting annihilated, which is what's happened in the last 2 matches. Luckily, though, Mike, and this is a point that wasn't asked on the question, no one wants Champions League football in the Premier League. So we're still in it, which is the weirdest thing.
It's ridiculous. We got to win both of the games and hope that Chelsea drops one, and that's that.
Chelsea have Wolves and Leicester, correct? I believe that's who they have, and Manchester United have Huddersfield and Cardiff.
I think they have Watford and Leicester.
Oh, maybe they have Watford and Leicester. Okay, yeah, it is Watford.
I forced my son Jake to look it up yesterday because I wanted to know what our chances were. But and Watford's home and Leicester's away, so I mean they could drop points.
They could drop points. I don't see United losing to Huddersfield and or Cardiff. I just don't see it.
Unfortunately, I don't see us beating Burnley on the road either.
I don't either.
But that's about that. Let's we got to whip through a bunch of different questions. Then I got to go see my aforementioned son play football. But I want to give a shout out. I've been very negligent to giving shout outs to the chat, although I have been interacting, and you guys have been a vibrant chat today. Please give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. But Ryan Costa in the chat, Karen Russell, as always. Baby. Karen is just the best. I see her when I'm in other people's chats, and I see her in ours. We have, who else is in here? David Ziegler, of course. Ryan Cost. I think I already mentioned him. We got 2. Bulgarian Gooner. Kerry McCollum. Michael Hernandez, of course, and the Hernandez family. Sadine Syed. Matt Walker. I know that some people were in here and left. I think Tom actually was serious about leaving as soon as you logged out, Tom, or Andy, and relogged in. But I even saw James Co, Mr. Lossless. You know who James is, don't you?
We all know. To be fair, I know most of your chat box. You know.
Yeah. They well, a lot of them came from you guys. There's no question about that. And I met James a few weeks ago. I was in New York, and we were at O'Hanlon's watching the game, and a very tall man, if I remember correctly, came up to me and pulled the whole "Are you Mike from the Gooners podcast?" Which Jace, there's nothing better than that in the world. When some seemingly random person comes up and asks that. And I was standing right in front of Tom Canton and Drew Thompson when he said that as well. So I got a major ego boost. And it was James. So I gave him a hug. I think he was a little scared. He was looking for the handshake. I gave him like the bear hug. But it was good to see him after all this time. So anyhow, next question from Danny Sweetman in God Manchester, which is still the weirdest.
Not that arsehole.
It's actually, and let's try to go for real rapid fire answers. And it has nothing to do with bathing for once.
No.
If Jace had to do an ABW live show with 3 Arsenal players, past or present, from any era, who would they be, and why? But how about just who would they be? Because we're running a little long. If you had to do a show, if you were just physically forced to do a show with Arsenal players.
Oh, Jesus, it'd just be Aaron Ramsey so I can sit there and look into his eyes.
Kind of described how Angie's answer for Granit Xhaka.
Do you know what? It wouldn't be Alan.
I heard Aaron Ramsey charges a lot, though, to come on a podcast.
I think it's 3 sheep and a cow. Let's leave that there, please.
We'll move
on. I don't know. I wouldn't go for the sort of Alan Smith. Definitely not. Can't stand him commentating.
Oh, I hope he's not listening right now.
I know.
He may join us again in a few weeks. See, this is why I don't like people going phase 2 on people, because
but that's just not being funny. He's a great servant to Arsenal Football Club. I just don't like him commentating. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a personal preference. It would probably be. Well, can I pick a manager? Because it'd have to be Arsene Wenger.
Yep.
Arsene Wenger. Oh, no, not Tony Adams. No.
I mean, you could pick Bertie Mee or
no, Chapman. I'm not going that far back. Friggin' gits. You've stumped me. Danny Sweetman stumped me. I hate this.
Well, you don't get Ramsey either, because Karen Russell says she'll get to him first. So she'll be waiting outside the ABW studios.
You go for it, girl. You go for it. Enjoy. I tell you what, then. It would be Arsene Wenger. It would be David Platt.
Okay,
because he came in that period, and it would be Dennis Bergkamp.
So 2 of the 3 people are Bruce Rioch signings, and the third is the one who ended up ending Bruce Rioch's Arsenal career. Interesting.
I don't know. I think Bruce Rioch ended Bruce Rioch's Arsenal.
Well, yeah. I actually got into a question on Twitter with somebody, and he may have educated me on a little bit, because I had believed what I had read on Wikipedia, but because those were in the years where I was in university and really wasn't able to pay too close attention, and so I didn't really realize the whole mystery behind whether Rioch got rid of Rioch or whether David Dean really pushed him out the door because he fancied Arsene Wenger. So. Any case, I don't want to open that. So Danny's from God Manchester. We have a question from Bobby Chakraborty, who's from God Birmingham, or God Liverpool, or God Portsmouth, or another God Hemel Hempstead, maybe. But why are we so fucking shit at the moment? Some of these are going to be user comments. I'd like them to be rhetorical. We don't need to spend 5 minutes answering that, because I think we've spent about an hour and 15 minutes talking about that. And what was the point in signing Dennis Suarez, which... he's come out today on Twitter, I think, and released a statement that he's been dealing with a niggling groin injury, and that it's gotten to the point where at this point he needs to not have surgery, but to rehab and not play on it.
I think the reason we signed Suarez, Mike, was he is an Unai Emery kind of alumni
protege.
And if Unai needed something, he knew what he was getting out of the player. He knew a player that would know his system and could probably fill into 2 or 3 different roles. Maybe he came from Barca injured. I don't think we ever got to see the best of him. Based off of the message today, I don't think we ever will see him in an Arsenal shirt.
It sounded like he was saying goodbye forever.
Yeah. But I just think it was a player that we could get for cheap. Quickly, and it was a player that Unai knew where he would fit in. So I think that's just the simple of it.
A couple answers to Danny's question coming from the chat. Jace, I know you saw David's on Lee Dixon.
Yeah.
The Romford Pele would be an amazing guy to hang out with. I mean, you certainly would be in a pub when you did that, I believe. But Lee Dixon, Karen mentions that she spent an hour in his company after seeing him in a coffee shop, and I share the same. It wasn't one-on-one, but after the Arsenal Supporters Trust meeting I went to about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago, he was speaking at that meeting. That was a well-publicized meeting after the fact for reasons that were not very fair. People video recording comments that he made and taking them out of context. But after the meeting, he and about 6 of us went across the street to a pub and had a couple pints. And he was telling stories and being pretty relaxed and open. And the guy is a fun chat. He had a lot to say, so that would be a good shout as well, Lee Dixon. And frankly, he could answer the question that Andy wants to know, which is, do you really like Arlo White or not? Because he works with him on a regular basis.
He does.
A follow-up from Tom Rosenhammer about Suarez is: do we think he was injured coming in? Do we think Raul might have taken him on loan to curry favor with his former employer, such as, we'll take him on loan for a couple million if you sell us some titty in the summer? Is there any chance that that wasn't meant to be someone that was going to contribute, but we just did it to? I mean, that's kind of a conspiracy theory there.
Why in the fuck is Titty going to leave Barcelona and come to Arsenal?
All I know is if Titty comes to Arsenal, every single one of our podcasts is going to be on Pornhub instead of just the ones with you and me. We have 2 podcasts currently on Pornhub because they're the 2 we did this season without guests.
My favorite is that someone commented, "Why is this here?"
Why is this here? You should have just responded with a emoticon of the what is the purple vegetable called?
Oh, the eggplant.
The eggplant. That's what it's doing here. Speaking of which, from Tom Rosenhammer, why does Guendouzi play every game? Asked and answered.
But Jason, didn't you just have something to add to that Titty point?
Yeah, there's more Suarez. I think Raul's got gambling debts at Barcelona. It's the only reason I can see the point of bringing him in. Because at the moment you look at sort of our, I'm not going to go down that road, no, but it just doesn't fill me with confidence.
Yeah, and so I think the questions from Tom a little bit rhetorical. Why does Guendouzi play every game? Ramsey aside, why don't any of our midfielders want to shoot in the final third? And why won't Emery play Mkhitaryan centrally? That's a good question. I mean, they're all good questions, but anyone want to grab any of those, or do we want to leave those as rhetorical questions?
Mkhitaryan can't be trusted centrally. He showed that when he moved central the other day. His performances all season have been lackluster. A couple of good games where he shone. He's an extremely talented player. This is the thing. If I'm giving Unai Emery stick or Henrik Mkhitaryan stick, I want them to do well. I want Unai Emery to succeed at the Arsenal. But from what I've seen, I don't trust him to succeed. I wouldn't trust Henrik Mkhitaryan on anything at the moment. I think he's just. I don't know what's going on with him. It's been atrocious with him recently. You had a couple of good games out of him, and that was it.
Yeah.
As far as these guys shooting, you've got Torreira with a couple of goals, but he is a more defensively minded player. You've got Guendouzi, who likes everything in front of him. Do you know what I mean? It's not their natural game, And to be honest, Xhaka, okay, you'll get the odd screamer, but most of the time it's in Rosette. these players are not naturally, they do not naturally go for goal. The worrying part is Mkhitaryan and Iwobi, who aren't effective in front of goal.
No, we're getting no end product from them almost.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through a raft of questions from David Ziegler, but I'm actually going to remove the ones that aren't like date sensitive because he's got some funny ones in there. But I want to make sure to recognize some of the questions in the chat as well. So, quick fire, one word answer. Which has been the worst performance in this 5-match shit run? Everton, Watford, Wolves, Palace, or Leicester? Andy, you don't tell us why. Just what do you think's been the worst?
Wolves.
Wolves. Okay. Do you agree, or are you going differently?
Palace.
That's my answer. Palace. I mean, right. Well, I said no response from you, so I'm not going to give mine. But I think Palace was the worst as well. Are there any of the Arsenal women's team available for selection by the men's side? And if so, who would you pick? For me, there's no question. I mean, it's Daniel Van de Donk. Just for the name alone. I mean, she's also a very good footballer, but Van de Donk is the one that comes to mind for me. Again, congratulations to the Arsenal women. Anyone else have, or is that just kind of a?
Mdima, is it Mdima you pronounce it?
I'm ashamed that I don't know the whole 18. I do know Daniel Van de Donk though. All right, and then the other one, oh no, that's it for these. We'll carry forward the rest of those to next week. Question from Michael Hernandez: will all be forgiven when Arsenal wins the Europa League? Or I should say, when Arsenal win the Europa League, because Arsenal is a...
Look, Mike, when we started this pod at the beginning of this season, we talked about what our realistic expectations for Arsenal were, and I don't think either of us said we needed a cup. I think we both said we wanted to be in with a shout of not only the league, but the top four at the end of the season, at least in conversation, and that would be enough for us. I'm sticking to that. I think
you did say that. I mean,
I think that we are still in a shout with the top four. I think it's a bonus that we're in the Europa League tie. I hope to God that we find form when we play Valencia and Valencia. But listen, this isn't Unai's team, and I'm going to stick with that. He could have done better. It's troublesome that we, as Jason mentioned before, we could be a few points ahead of Tottenham, and we could be comfortably in the Champions League already going into these last two matches. But such is life. I want to see Unai with a couple more windows to get his shit together. I'm very nervous about the state of Arsenal and that back office having changed so much from the beginning of the season. But at the end of the day, that we can't control that. So I think that this season is right on point with where my expectation was of just being in with a shout, and we're there. If we add Europa, awesome. Someone, and I'm not going to say his name, suggested that if we won the Europa League, and Jason, I want to get your point on this because Mike knows what I'm about to say. It was suggested that if Unai Emery wins the Europa League, that will overshadow everything Arsene Wenger has ever done for Arsenal Football Club.
I'm not going to dignify that comment. whatever twat said that, they need to fucking grow up. You know, I got to be honest. That's a fucking. You guys are a fucking imbecile. Look, if Unai Emery I predicted at the beginning of the season we'd finish third and we'd win the Europa League. Okay, because if you look at the problems we had last season, it was all about away form. The home form was excellent last season. It was all about the away form. And apparently everybody kept on telling me it's down to coaching, it's down to this, it's down to that. We brought in 2 midfielders, a defender, and a new goalkeeper in the summer. Not much has changed. Not much has changed. Our away form's still been shit. It's slightly better. We're 3 points better off than we were last season. We've got the Europa League to play for. We could still get top 4. We could still get top 4, okay? If Unai Emery gets top 4 or wins the Europa League, Champions League qualification, he's a success. End of story. Okay? He's only come in a 2-year contract. You know, I hope he succeeds.
There was no expectation we'd be playing in the Champions League next season. So if we do...
I genuinely thought we would. simply because if you look at our problems last season, look at where he needed to solidify. You know, if you look at us 5 games ago, okay, we're in prime position to get third. Okay, 1 win in 5 has knocked us back. Now, as much as Unai is responsible for the good times, and, you know, he wins Europa League, he gets top 4, he's a success. He's responsible for the bad times as well. That's what it is as a football manager nowadays. These aren't my parameters. They're the game's parameters. Okay? He's on a 2-year contract. We wait and see. You know? We wait and see. But people kept on saying, oh, we were 34 points off top last season. They also forgot to say that Man City had the greatest season in Premier League history, bar the Invincibles. More points, more wins, more everything than everybody else. Okay? That's dropped off. But it's as simple as this. If Unai Emery wins that Europa Cup or finishes top 4, he's a success and good luck to him. Let's hope he takes us on to better things.
Yeah.
Yep. David Ziegler asks, who do I have to fuck in order to get them to stop playing Sweet Caroline after matches?
Raul Sanlehi.
Yeah, that's it. That, and then you have to fuck a pineapple.
Hey, speaking of which, David, I used your pineapple duct tape this weekend, so thanks for that.
We have the greatest listeners, users, friends.
What's going on here?
And I'm still receiving emails from that fucking church guy, letters in the mail. So basically, Jason, long story short,
this traces back to Gav, Jason.
This traces back to Gav. A conversation about pineapple being on pizza, whether you're pro or con. I'm very con. David, we mentioned him a little, or actually offline. Who was he? Good friend who has got my address from Mike, and I've just literally got nothing but spam in my mailbox, which has been very funny. But now I'm getting messages from this priest who is telling me that the Lord is with me, and then if I ask for forgiveness and help, it will come. It's just ramblings of a madman, basically.
Oh, God. It's not David Koresh's younger brother, is it?
No, and it's addressed to Apple, so it's P' nipple. Roads.
I will say that David Ziegler lives not so far from where David Koresh made his name, so maybe there is a little bit more there. But so what was I going to say? Oh, Karen Russell, 3 players. The first 3 players that you want out of the club. I'm going to go with Lichtsteiner. Unfortunately, I think he served his purpose. Jenkinson, and I'm sorry. At this point I have to say Mustafi.
I'm gonna say Mustafi. I'm gonna say Kashani, and I love what Kashani has done. But look, and I'm assuming that we're bringing in the appropriate replacements. Kashani has been phenomenal coming back from the injury, but he's on the other side of his hump, and I don't see him. I mean, if he can clearly be over this injury, I would change my opinion here. But I'm gonna say Mustafi, Kashani, and I'm gonna say Mkhitaryan.
Can I add a fourth before you go, Jace? I'd like to get rid of Theo Walcott again because it was so much fun the first time. All right, so who would you get rid of first?
I think El Nene's got to go. I think Mkhitaryan, I don't see the point in paying that much for a player who delivers that little. I think for the benefit of all concerned, I think it's time for Mustafi to get a fresh challenge. Try to get a good centre back in with him plus Cash. You know what I mean? Because this is the thing: we're either way high on players, or we're the
Can we offer him to Valencia and get Gabriel back?
And can we do it before Thursday?
Gabriel was the biggest shithouse ever. This is a guy, I've heard so many times about our players, they're going to sort somebody out. So all Gabriel ever fucking did was trip up Diego Costa from behind and get himself sent off the daft twat.
That's why I loved him.
He's fucking rubbish. There's a reason,
Okay, Jason, let me ask you this question, okay? Honest opinion now. You have to give an honest answer. You have a blank team sheet in front of you, and you've got 3 center backs to choose from: Mustafi, Koscielny, and Gabriel. Who is taking your 2 center back positions?
Oh.
I think he might be on mute.
Either that or he's vomiting.
I see his mouth moving. Chase, we can't hear you. No, where did he go?
He is moving though, so we can't hear him. I think this is just kind of, you know how sometimes you give me 2 choices and I just say yes as
I
the
think
answer?
the answer is very clear, and from his response, we're going to gain that. It's going to be Koscielny and Gabriel.
Yes, we're gonna say that for him until he sorts out his microphone issues. Even before that, I was going to say let's just leave it here. It's been a wonderful hour and a half. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed having this guy sitting over my shoulder. Thank you to the chat for all your participation and contributions and loyalty. If you haven't given us a thumbs up, please do. If you haven't spent 48 consecutive hours telling everybody you know about our podcast and telling them to subscribe, please do. We appreciate that. And if you're not watching us live but listening to us on YouTube, come on and join us on YouTube every once in a while. It's fun. And that's about it. We'll be on, I guess, after the next week to talk about Valencia and Brighton. Is it Brighton this coming weekend? I don't even know anymore. I just want it to be June already, which is the title.
He's back. Quickly, give us your answer.
Mustafi Koscielny.
God damn it.
Had to get one more dig in.
The difference is I'd put a proper midfield in front of them and I'd coach them better.
Well, that's true. And just finishing up, next week we'll be talking about Valencia. We'll be talking about the Brighton game with our special guest, Gary Mabbutt, who's going to be joining us.
Oh, fuck Gary Mabbutt. I'm banned by what's his name? Graham Roberts.
Oh, well, you and me, but you and everybody else that ever. I was getting banned. I was seeing so many people getting banned by him. I tweeted him. I'm like, I don't really know you that well, but I think you're an absolute cunt. And then like 5 seconds later, I was blocked. So
I've never interacted with the guy.
I wanted to be one of the cool kids, so I just finally I had to cunt him off in front of the world before he would block me. But now I'm there. Because blocking is a trophy. Muting is how to do it. Blocking is a trophy. Apparently,
I tell you what, that Tottenham trophy cabinet's collapsed under all that pressure, isn't it?
God,
it's terrible.
They play tomorrow or Wednesday?
Oh, God save Ajax! Come on!
Well, come on, you Ajax! That I normally end with "Come on, you Gooners," but come on, you Ajax! Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Jace. We love you. Watch Jace on a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. When are you doing your own solo act? Are you branching off the spinoff for the Jace show?
Yeah, you don't total audience of one.
It's a variety show with sheep and
different types of
bring the sheep up. I'm allowed to bring the sheep up.
Sorry.
To be fair, it's a pleasure being on with you guys again. Miss you guys.
Oh, I should have called. I still can, but I should have called this one "Wolves in Sheep's Clothing" because it would get together the whole package. Maybe I'll do that.
Somebody put a tweet out this week, and they said the Eagles, Wolves, and the Foxes have all humped the Arsenal. The natural kingdom fucking hates the Arsenal.
Yeah,
I think they're right.
Literally, we're going to have a baby that looks like a wildebeest and some disgusting animal. Nikki Wilson's just come in. Nikki Wilson just came in and said, "Oh, bugger, Jace is here. Does that mean I have to behave?" Nikki, the show's over.
That's all I'm going to say is Karen Russell's just put on in the box there, "Come on Ajax." Now I'm thinking that's a bit close to the bone, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have enough to get on 11 people all at one time. Maybe one person, maybe two, but not 11. But with that, I think we'll. Hi, Mrs. Hernandez. I think we'll end it right there. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week. I love you guys, and come on, you Gooners.